Inquisitive viewers, welcome to Science and Spirituality on Supreme Master Television. Today is Halloween, an old holiday celebrated in many countries with many fun activities. Children dress up as ghosts seeking candy, friends tell thrilling stories, and pumpkins are carved into grinning jack-o'-lanterns, a tradition meant for remembering the souls held in purgatory. Halloween is one of the world's oldest holidays. The word hallow refers to holy, and the word Halloween first appeared in the 16th century as a Scottish variant of All Hallows Eve, which refers to the evening before All Saints' Day. All Saints' Day is a Christian-based holiday when the saints, meaning our ancestors on earth and those who precede us in heaven, are honored. Perhaps on such an occasion as Halloween, have you ever stopped to think about whether a spirit world exists? For those of us who watch our loved ones depart, can we contact them or see them after we ourselves pass on? The latter question did cross the mind of the famous US inventor Thomas Edison. As he stated in the October 1920 issue of the American magazine,
I have been at work for some time, building an apparatus to see if it is possible for personalities which have left this earth to communicate with us.
Thomas Edison's work was responsible for the development of many everyday devices, including the electric light bulb, motion picture camera, and phonograph. In his time, people held seances to try to communicate with those who passed on into the spirit world. As a scientist, Edison said that he didn't claim that personalities pass on to another sphere since he knew nothing about the subject. However, he said he did claim that
it is possible to construct an apparatus which will be so delicate that if there are personalities in another existence or sphere who wish to get in touch with us in this existence or sphere, the apparatus will at least give them a better opportunity to express themselves than the tilting tables and wraps and Ouija boards and mediums and other crude methods now purported to be the only means of communication.
What kind of ghost machine did Edison have in mind? The only hint he gave us was that it would be extremely sensitive. In his own description to Scientific American, he said this apparatus would be in the nature of a valve. The slightest conceivable effort is made to exert many times its initial power for indicative purposes. Could it be that material technology could be so refined as to detect a non-material spirit? Science may have yet to develop such a device, but some researchers are already certain that there is such a thing as ethereal entities to be detected. For instance, Italian physicist Dr. Marco Biagini wrote the following in support of the view that the soul exists.
The laws of physics establish that no successions of chemical reactions can generate consciousness, sensations, emotions, or thoughts. Hence, a non-physical element, the soul, must exist as the source of our consciousness and our psychical life.
If we can accept that souls exist, how about ghosts? What exactly are these lingering spirit beings that throughout the centuries and across cultures have been reported to be among us? During a 1999 lecture given in Greece, Supreme Master Ching Hai answered a question in which she defined ghosts as one of two types of spirits that come back to the earthly plane after the physical body passes on.
There are two types of spirits who come back to earth. One come back without a body, then we call them ghosts. And the one who comes back choosing another physical office to reside in, we call them reincarnated soul. At the time of death, some people do not realize immediately that they're dead, so they hang around, try to talk to relatives and friends, and get very frustrated. And sometimes they try to cause trouble because they do not want to accept that they have left this physical world and still feel attached to the atmosphere of this planet. But after a while, they will be removed to where they belong. Depends on their spiritual attainment, depends on the level of understanding of the universe. They will be placed into different places.
In 2005, British professor Richard Wiseman enlisted 200 volunteers to investigate one of the UK's so-called haunted locations, and indeed found that something quite odd was happening. He sent groups of the volunteers to 4 locations without them knowing that only 2 of these sites had strong reputations for being haunted by their former residents. Interestingly, a big difference was found between reports of the haunted versus non-haunted locations. For example, 70% of those visiting the supposedly haunted places reported unusual phenomena, whereas only 48% of those exploring non-reputed places had eerie experiences. People at the haunted locations experienced more instances of extreme coldness, being touched, hearing footsteps, and seeing apparitions of people and animals. There was also evidence of low-frequency sound waves continuously being emitted in the most haunted site, which have been known to produce feelings of unease in people. Perhaps more solid are the many reports of people seeing spirits near the time of their own deaths. In a research project in the 1980s to uncover evidence for life after death, Director of Research at the American Society for Psychical Research, Carlis Osis from Latvia, spent 4 years collecting an astonishing 50,000 deathbed observations from 1,000 doctors and nurses in the US and India. Trying to make a careful distinction between cases of hallucination and cases involving apparition experiences, he and his colleague, Icelandic psychologist Dr. Erlendur Haraldsson, wrote the following in their book, At the Hour of Death.
Consider, for example, the following 2 cases. They are quite typical of more than 1,000 cases of this sort that we have collected. A 70-year-old patient had seen her deceased husband several times, and then she predicted her own death. Before she saw her husband, she didn't speak about imminent death. Her doctor was so surprised by her sudden death, for which there were no sufficient medical reasons, that he checked if she had poisoned herself. He found neither signs of poisoning nor any such drugs in the house. Typical is the following case of a 60-year-old woman tortured by intestinal cancer. All of a sudden, the doctor reports, she opened her eyes. She called her deceased husband by name and said she was coming to him. To anticipate our conclusions, we will state here that this evidence strongly suggests life after death, more strongly than any alternative hypothesis can explain the data. Neither medical nor psychological nor cultural conditioning can explain away deathbed visions. Moreover, they are relatively independent of age, gender, education, religion, and socio-economic status.
Did the 2 women really perceive the spirits of their deceased husbands? And what was the pleasant place that the 2 women were drawn to as they neared their own times of departure? Across the religions, we find descriptions of heavenly abodes, hellish realms, and many other places in between, varying in degrees of light and darkness, bliss and fear. Many individuals who have had near-death experiences, or NDEs, have reported descriptions of the afterlife that are similar to religious depictions. Near-death experiencers have often tell about entering the light in an otherworldly dimension, meeting spiritual beings, and feeling an intense, unconditional love.
From above, I was able to look down and see myself, my own body. And then I experienced this light, which is very normal in the near-death experience, this love, this joy, this peace that many people describe.
It was like falling into a river of pure positive energy. And I came to that realization that this is God. What I'm feeling is the presence of God.
When that lightning hit me and I slammed on the bed, I lifted out of my body. And I was in a place of observation. I was completely calm and I was safe. I was no longer a part of myself, and I'm floating above this room and I see myself lying across the bed. You don't really ever know that you're dead when you're dead, because you're alive.
Unlike those who live to tell about the other side, however, our loved ones in most cases leave us and do not return. Or, as some near-death experiencers have said, they would try to let their loved ones know that they were still there right beside them, but to no avail. In most cases, the loved ones were unable to feel their presence. Why was it so? Could it be that the perceptual apparatus, much like Edison's ghost machine, was not sensitive enough to perceive the spirit? On a number of occasions, as during a 1999 gathering with our association members in Thailand, Supreme Master Ching Hai explained that through spiritual practice, we can elevate our own vibrations to become more sensitive. Some may then be better equipped to perceive invisible beings around us.
Master, my sister is terminally ill, and she has a daughter, and our daughter has said that when her mum dies, that she'll, if she can, she'll get back any way she can, just to let her daughter know that she's okay.
Yes.
And I just wanted to know if that was possible.
It is possible. The soul who left this physical world can go anywhere or come back here anytime she wants, even come back to the same body if she wants. But the problem is the daughter, can she know when the mother come back? That's the only thing. Because most of people who are encased in this physical box, of the body, don't have much freedom to contact the spirit world. And the people from spiritual world came here, had a hard time to convey their message to their loved one who is still encased in this physical body. Okay? So if the daughter is a spiritual practitioner, maybe.
Supreme Master Ching Hai also lovingly gave the following advice for those who ever wish to contact their deceased cherished ones.
But don't think of the dead people. Let them be free. You see, when you think of them, they will immediately be near you. But you cannot see them because sometimes you don't have this ability. Okay? So you just bother them, come back and forth, back and forth.
Okay,
it's no good. And that is if they still are in the spiritual world. If they're already in the physical world, it is also not good to think of them. Okay? Just bless them, pray for them.
On this Halloween, we remember that our world is also a spirit world, apart from material existence. May we open our minds with compassion to the spirits around us, and more importantly, plan for our own journey into the next realm. Through the results of a virtuous way of life, may we find only joy, freedom, and elevation at the time of our departure. Thank you for your presence today on Science and Spirituality. Up next is Words of Wisdom after noteworthy news here on Supreme Master Television. May heaven bless your divine and wondrous spirit.
For more details, please visit www.suprememastertv.com/SS